In this week's Bizline, Vietnam aims to build international regional financial centers. And later on, financial centers facilitate Vietnam's economic development. Hello and welcome to Bizline on VTV International. I'm your host, Hoàng Hằng. Now, financial centers play a crucial role in a nation's economy. They bring together leading financial institutions, prestigious stock exchanges, and banks, creating a vibrant ecosystem where capital flows seamlessly. Vietnam aims to establish an international financial center in Ho Chi Minh City and a regional financial center in Da Nang. But what will it take to turn this vision into reality? What opportunities and challenges lie ahead? Join us as we dive into this ambitious plan in this week's Bizline. But first, let's learn about the goals the country has set in the following clip.
Announcement number 47, issued by the Politburo, outlines Vietnam's plans to establish financial centers in Ho Chi Minh City and Da Nang. The main objective is to develop Ho Chi Minh City into a global financial hub while establishing a regional financial center in Da Nang. Announcement number 47 sets out the formation of 3 key agencies: the Management and Operations Agency, the Supervisory Agency, and the Dispute Resolution Agency. At a press conference announcing the government's action plan to develop regional and international financial centers in Vietnam, the Prime Minister underscored that this initiative marks an essential milestone in the nation's next development phase. These financial centers are set to enable deeper integration with a global financial system, unlock new investment channels, capitalize on emerging international capital flow opportunities, and enable Vietnam's financial market to meet international standards.
Hiện tại chúng ta đang tập trung vào cái nguồn vốn của ngân hàng hơn là thị trường chứng khoán. Thì cái trung tâm tài chính sẽ giúp cho thị trường vốn phát triển.
Cũng đem lại một cái nguồn thu khá là lớn thông qua việc là chúng ta cung cấp các dịch vụ tài chính và các dịch vụ khác có liên quan, thì đấy chính là nguồn thu về thuế, về phí và các nguồn thu khác.
Creating a financial center now allows Vietnam to leapfrog some of the other more historic financial centers and to become really the financial center of the 21st century. And I think that fits together with Vietnam, the way that Vietnam has developed from a manufacturing economy. It is now, we see this drive with whether it's with semiconductors, with AI.
In order to gain deeper insight into this topic, we invited His Excellency British Ambassador to Vietnam, Ian Frew, to the studio. Well, thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for being here with us. Vietnam is planning to establish a regional financial center in Da Nang and also an international financial center in Ho Chi Minh City. So from your perspective, how will those centers help facilitate the country's economic development as well as its position in the global arena?
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to join you for this conversation. I think this is a very important moment for Vietnam's economy and its future development. And I think the international financial centres can play a key part and a key role in that future. And with a target of 8% this year and a path towards double-digit growth and becoming a high-income economy by 2045, it's clear that Vietnam has set those right ambitions and a path towards a prosperous future. But to achieve that requires some new initiatives and some new ideas. And the International Financial Centre really has the potential to support that future development and the new era of growth. If the International Financial Centre is implemented correctly between Ho Chi Minh City and Da Nang, it has the potential to attract capital and investment into Vietnam, new flows and greater confidence by investors in this market. And at the same time, the financial services sector itself can develop as an important part of Vietnam's economy, as it is for other international financial centres around the world.
How do you envision strengthening UK-Vietnam financial cooperation in particular and relations in general, especially with the development of these new centres?
The UK-Vietnam relationship is in a very good place, and one of the reasons we are very interested and supporting this project around the International Financial Centre is that we see this as another area in which we can build our relationship further. So we have very strong bilateral trade now between our two countries. Now that's a number I want to see grow further, and I think the IFC work can really contribute towards this. The UK and Vietnam share many important elements of our economic strategies. So we have a very open trading approach. The UK-Vietnam bilateral free trade agreement has been in place for 4 years now. And last year, the UK joined, together with Vietnam's support, the CPTPP regional trade agreement. The financial centre is an example of where we can use UK expertise, we can connect with that ambition and plans of the Vietnamese government to help to create something together. So it's an area where I think the UK embassy and our government see some real potential for our relationship, alongside quite a range of other areas where we're working together. For example, on the green transition, these things are connected. The Vietnamese government is targeting net zero, and that's something that net zero by 2050 will require change to policies to achieve lower climate emissions. It will require energy transition, which we're working on together, but it would also require financial flows. So green finance is a really key element of what an international financial centre could offer, and it helps to bolster an area of important cooperation.
What strength and advantages does Vietnam, particularly Da Nang and Ho Chi Minh City, own in developing those centres, as well as to compete with other financial hubs in the region and the world?
If we talk about the kind of physical location and infrastructure of Vietnam, I think there are some big advantages there. Vietnam is at the heart of Southeast Asian and Indo-Pacific trade flows, so really tied into global value chains, and I think that means that there are a lot of companies that are already invested here and others that understand the role that Vietnam can play in international markets. So I think that is a big advantage. We know that with Vietnam's port infrastructure, with its long coastline, and with its integration into regional economies, that that all provides a strong basis for what an international financial centre can do and can draw on. The second area is really around the policy frameworks. Now, Vietnam's open approach to international trade and investment, I think, is a real asset and a real benefit, because it means that investors are already familiar with how the country works and already understand how partnerships can deliver benefits for both sides. And for an IFC to be effective, we need those investors, we need those market players to both understand and to commit to help the development of the centre. So I think the policy frameworks, both on trade and on financial regulation, provide a good basis to develop going forward. And the third, and I think in many ways the most important of the assets that Vietnam has, is around its people. So a young, very well educated, and I think dynamic population. Also a population that's very tech savvy and switched on to new technologies in a digital age, which is important for where the financial sector goes in future.
According to the World Economic Forum, Vietnam's GDP in 2024 is estimated at around 470 billion US dollars, ranking it 33rd globally. With 17 free trade agreements and a high level of economic openness, Vietnam has a strategic edge in fostering partnerships and building regional and international financial centers. Its macroeconomic stability is marked by strong growth, controlled inflation, and balanced fundamentals.
We've seen the tremendous growth that Vietnam has had over the last 30 years. I think if we can apply that same growth and that same ethos into a financial center or financial centers, we can achieve, or Vietnam can achieve, great things very quickly.
Vietnam's capital market has seen steady growth, with a double-digit rate, among the highest in the region. The expected market upgrade this year is set to boost investor confidence. The State Securities Commission recently signed an MOU on multilateral supervision with IOSCO, further enhancing the market's credibility and global integration.
It actually showcased SSC's commitment to cross-border collaboration, and it's also shown that your capital market is open to foreign investment.
Vietnam's strong commitment to advancing institutions, human resources, and infrastructure is widely recognized and has already delivered positive results.
Vietnam has a young workforce. The wages are not as high as in other countries, and many of the people in that workforce, they could work in the finance industry. Also brilliant universities regarding financial education, I would like to mention.
The government has launched an action plan comprising 49 task groups assigned to 12 ministries, sectors, and localities. In addition, intersectoral and local steering committees on financial centers have been established to facilitate the creation of clear strategies and actionable development plans.
We have a very strong commitment from the party and from the government in Vietnam. Also, the two cities, Da Nang and Ho Chi Minh City, are very committed. And with the dedicating steering committee, what I can observe from my side now, it is no longer out of scope to establish such a financial hub.
Da Nang plans to establish a financial center focusing on green and digital finance. A 9.7-hectare site has been earmarked for developing a fintech hub by 2030, and the city is actively partnering with strategic investors to seize this opportunity.
Chúng tôi đã chủ động làm việc với các tổ chức tài chính, các tổ chức tư vấn, rồi những cái ngân hàng, đề nghị họ là cung cấp những thông tin, rồi đề xuất kiến nghị những cái chính sách mà phù hợp với Việt Nam, phù hợp với cả Đà Nẵng.
The Ho Chi Minh City People's Committee has proposed establishing the International Financial Center in Thu Thiem and part of District 1. City leaders stress creative implementation, leveraging local strengths, and effectively applying Resolution 98 to drive development.
Thành phố sẽ hết sức tập trung để mà thực hiện tốt nhất cái cải cách hành chính ở trên địa bàn để tạo cái môi trường thông thoáng, thuận lợi cho cộng đồng doanh nghiệp.
From your perspective, what are the biggest challenges that Vietnam will face in building a world-class financial centers, both in terms of infrastructure and regulatory framework?
We've seen the development of the metro lines in Ho Chi Minh City, the new airport. These are really important projects, and they need to go alongside elements of quality of life infrastructure. Now, I find both of these cities wonderful places to visit. For international professionals, I think that is an area where they're going to find very attractive places to live, but work needs to happen in both cities to continue to improve that, whether that's education services, health services, the way that public spaces are used. These are all important elements of how these cities develop for their citizens as well as international financial centres. And I think regulatory frameworks are the other really important element and a really big challenge, because international financial centres in different places in the world have established their own specific either jurisdictions or legal and regulatory frameworks to help really kickstart a transition of innovative frameworks, of attracting international investors. And for Vietnam, there is a challenge of both modernising existing frameworks and regulation and working out what are the right elements to put into an IFC. So an IFC which is going to have its own specific elements and regime. Within the International Financial Centre itself, the choices around legal and regulatory frameworks are very important, because the investors both want a sense of predictability and understanding how, for example, disputes will be settled if there is a dispute between parties or between companies. So dispute settlement mechanisms, arbitration need to be clear. And at the same time, they want to see that there's a regulatory authority which has the ability to be agile and to be forward-thinking in terms of anticipating and preparing for changes in the market or needs of market players for the future. So there's a delicate balance to be developed, and that is, I know, something that the Ministry of Finance, the State Bank of Vietnam, the State Securities Commission and others are looking at very closely at the moment as they think about how the IFC can be developed effectively and how those regulatory frameworks can be updated.
The Prime Minister has issued a decision on setting up a steering committee for regional and international financial centers with the involvement of the Prime Minister himself, two cities leaders and also leaders from various government bodies. So how does this reflect Vietnam's determination in this?
The government's determination is something that's really struck me over the past 6 months. The work that has happened over the past 2 years has helped provide a real basis, but the pace of movement has really stepped up, particularly since the Politburo's decision in November on the establishment of the international financial centres. And I think the steering committee now has a key role in helping to drive forward the specific elements of the legislation around an international financial centre. So the expectation is that the National Assembly will consider a draft constitutional statute, an element of the International Financial Centre, in May, in its session in May. Now, that is something that requires careful preparation, and the strategic direction and guidance of the steering committee is a key element in setting the level of ambition and in helping to resolve some of the questions or tensions or issues that might arise in considering the development of the legislation. So the choices that are there that I've mentioned around the legal framework and how that's established, the choices around how the international financial centres might specialise. These are things that the steering committee will need to give direction on, and that the government will then need to help execute and put into legislation. So I think there's a really key role here for the committee, and I think what we've seen particularly since November is a very fast pace of work and a very strong engagement internationally.
How would this determination help address the remaining obstacles in setting up these centres?
The direct involvement of both the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister and others is really key in order to help with the choices that are needed around legal frameworks. I think it's also about explaining and showing why this is important to Vietnam's future development. So connecting the choices that are made around an international financial centre with the ambition that Vietnam has. So in order to achieve the challenging task of double-digit growth, an international financial centre will help to unlock what? So the role of the Prime Minister and the steering committee can be both to help develop the legislation and those obstacles, but also and address those obstacles, but at the same time to help both the Vietnamese people, but Vietnamese business, to understand why is this a benefit? What is it that we can actually get from this? And to help international investors understand the story of how Vietnam is changing, where Vietnam is headed, and what the IFC is going to do. So there is a very important legal and policy role here, but I think there is also a communications and an outward role to help in realising the benefits of what an IFC can deliver ultimately.
The Ministry of Finance has proposed the implementation of a sandbox for fintech activities, including digital asset and cryptocurrency exchanges. At these financial centres, based on the UK experience, how significant is this in the digital era, especially in Vietnam's new development phase?
So our experience is that regulatory innovation alongside innovations in the financial sector is really key, not just to establishing an international financial centre, but in order to keep it relevant. So the City of London maintains its relevance because it keeps innovating, deploying technology and testing new ideas. So a sandbox is an opportunity for, within a regulatory framework, to test innovations, to test how technology can be deployed, whether that is around cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, whether that's around other fintech opportunities. Open banking is a really important area of innovation. It has been one where the UK has seen real benefits. So all of these areas can benefit from a sandbox approach, which allows both the financial institutions to develop their understanding, and at the same time for regulators to test out and to learn, and then from a sandbox environment to bring in new elements of regulation into the overall financial regulatory framework. We also see here in Vietnam great innovation already happening, whether that is around some of the apps and online services that we use to do financial transactions, the way that QR codes have completely spread across all transactions in the whole country in a short space of time. And I think this shows why it matters to be ready for innovation and why that sandbox can help.
According to experts, Singapore and Dubai can serve as templates for Vietnam. For instance, the Dubai International Financial Center established the Middle East's first fintech hub, attracting over 200 businesses and introducing supportive policies to foster the sector.
In terms of initiatives, one was the Fintech Hive, which was introduced in 2017 to accelerate the infusion of digitization and technology in the financial services sector in the region. Sorry, that was long. And third was the introduction of the Innovation Hub.
In recent meetings with Da Nang city leaders, Dubai shared valuable lessons from developing specific legal frameworks and managing digital currency exchanges to creating a conducive environment for an international financial center.
Most importantly, the center has close to it good English-speaking schools, good residential places that is safe and secure. They want to see an airline that is connected to the rest of the world where you can travel easily.
Singapore is a suitable model for Vietnam, particularly in policy consistency, tax incentives, green finance, and digital banking systems.
The law, the regulatory law, which is a common law, independent, and so that they're able to attract foreign investors and also foreign talent. Proper structured tax incentives to attract all these people. And the third one, also very crucial, would be free flow of capital.
In addition, major financial centers like London serve as global benchmarks that Vietnam can learn from.
What can Vietnam learn from the UK to develop the center successfully, or what recommendations would you make for Vietnam?
Yeah, so the UK is home to one of the oldest international financial centres in the world, the City of London. And as such, I think the UK has a lot of experience to share. The first is absolutely around infrastructure. I've mentioned some of the physical infrastructure development. I think the market infrastructure is equally important. Investors need to know that that is modern and effective. The infrastructure development is a long-term story. The second area is really around the regulatory side. So within an international financial centre, you need to have regulators and leaders who are empowered to take decisions for the benefit of the financial centre and the wider economy. And that is not always a comfortable element, right? So you need people at the forefront of thinking in financial and regulatory developments who can take wise decisions and do so in a way that is compatible with the political direction of the country, but there needs to be balance there as well. So I think that regulatory leadership and regulatory framework are really key, and that means a dialogue with industry as well. The third area is really around people, and we have seen in the UK the sector develop alongside the talents and the capabilities of both people from the UK who work in the sector, but also an international cadre of professionals who are experts in different fields of the financial sector. So our recommendations in this area would really be around two directions. One is to ensure that Vietnam is developing through the education system, through the professional training system, the future professionals who are going to be part of the International Financial Centre itself and part of the many companies that are going to be playing in the market. So the skills that are needed, some of those are specific financial skills, others are around accountancy, law. There are a range of ways in which Vietnam can connect internationally on this. And at the same time, bringing in the right talent. So Vietnam needs to look at how both the IFCs themselves, the cities in which the IFCs are based, and how the companies in the sector are able to attract the right people. I have to say the UK is going to continue to play a very active role in supporting the thinking and the development of this centre. For us, the trade that we have between our countries, but also the potential for us to do more, is a very strong reason for us to continue to be invested. It's part of our strategic partnership between the UK and Vietnam. And we have very significant market players in the financial sector already here in Vietnam, whether that's HSBC, Standard Chartered, Prudential, KPMG. These companies are very active here. They are very interested in supporting the development of the centre. And I think we're going to see that potential realised in the months and years ahead.
Once again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
There is no one-size-fits-all model for building a financial center. Each country and each city has its own unique strengths and challenges. For Vietnam, the key lies in learning from global experiences while tailoring solutions to fit its economic landscape. With Ho Chi Minh City positioned as an international financial hub and Da Nang emerging as a regional center, these two cities can develop along distinct but complementary paths. Together, they will form a dynamic financial network, one that is well-connected, competitive, and capable of driving Vietnam's economic future. And that wraps up this edition of BizLine. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to bringing you more insights into Vietnam's dynamic economy in upcoming episodes. Goodbye and see you next time.